Hi guys and welcome to another Pushing Polygons. Today we're talking about Elden Ring, the biggest game of 2022. And yes, you guessed it, also the game where you die, and of course, you die. Now, I myself am a noob or new person to the Elden Ring type of games, the Soulsborne games, if you will, and this really is my first jaunt into any type of universe like that. I've played 15 minutes of Demon Souls Remastered, and I spent a little time, not much, with Jedi Fallen Order. But for an actual Souls game made by From Software with the toughness, this is my first time with it. I want to talk to you guys about whether I think that this game can be for everyone out there. With that being said, I'm going to give an outline of basically giving you a high-level opinion of can this game be for everyone, and then we are going to break into it. We're going to talk about systems, we're going to talk about interface, we're going to talk about controls, we're going to talk about leveling, and then we're going to get into bosses and mini bosses. I'll have some B-roll of some gameplay that I put on screen. I would like you guys to know, apparently I had the game in HDR when I was playing, so the recording got a little messed up. I tried to color correct it, so if the colors are a little off, please try to be a little forgiving. But with that being said, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content on this channel, hit that subscribe button. And of course, ding the bell. It'll let you know when new videos are coming up on the channel. But with that being said, let's go ahead and let's get into it. So let's get right into it from the top, guys. Do I think Elden Ring is absolutely for everybody? No, that would just be an insane take. Do I think it can be for a lot of people and the game isn't necessarily as tough as some make it out to be? Well, you betcha. I believe that Elden Ring is one of those games where if you can look at it from a certain perspective, that you certainly can get into the game and you can get into the lore. Between different balancing that might come down the line in future updates from Software, to looking at this game like a classic RPG, you know, one of those Square RPGs from the mid to late 1990s, where there was a certain way to go about those games to make sure that you could get through bosses and get to the end. Now, of course, you can rush through and do it at the lowest level possible, which does require a bit more skill, but that's not to say that there isn't a way to achieve your goals otherwise. We'll get into that a little bit later when I'm talking about leveling your character. But let's go ahead and let's get into some of the controls with the game. Now, depending whether or not you're playing on the PC or you're playing with a game controller, you're going to find that the game is pretty responsive depending upon the weight that your character is carrying, their dexterity, their physical attributes. This is one of those hardcore RPGs that do take those types of things into an account. If you're looking at this game thinking that it is going to be an Elder Scrolls game, well, I would look at it more from the perspective of Elder Scrolls Oblivion than I would an Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Not to say that there aren't some improvements. If you do get yourself to a point where you have a lot, you're going to take a stamina hit. As you do in the old games, you either move really slowly or you can't move at all. Now, controls also are, again, I feel very responsive, whether you're clicking on the shoulder buttons to activate your swing or your cast, to raising your shield. There are some attributes which do affect the speed of the character, though. Dexterity for casters, for example. The higher the dexterity, the faster you can cast an incantation or channel a spell. Your stamina, of course, will not only affect the amount of casting you can do, but also it affects your dodge roll, how long you're able to run. And attributes will continue to affect your character going down the line. Now, getting into UI. Inventory is a very interesting thing in this game because you have an equipment slot, you have an inventory slot, you have these separate tabs. Again, this is channeling more old school RPGs in that we are dividing things down the line. You have to go into separate menus or separate tabs to get things done. Now, the character, of course, does have a pouch. This is a quick access to 4 more abilities, items, whatever you decide to put in the pouch. For me, I end up putting some of my Ashes of Wars or some of the wolves, for example, or the demi-human mob. There was a gameplay playthrough that I started to do when I was playing on the PS5 where I found some of Godrick's soldiers, so I ended up putting them in. So there are things that you can do to give yourself more offensive capabilities, but it's a matter of making your way through the menu and being able to figure out how to get this stuff into the pouches. There are some tool tips that are given to you, so you're not completely just thrown into this world with no idea what is going on or what to do, but you do have to suss out a little bit of it. If you don't explore and you just go on the main path, there is a lot you can miss in these games. The world is meant to be explored. You're meant to take time to talk to characters. I mean, many of you may not even know this, but if you talk to some characters 3 times, you may get an additional item. There's a character at a shack which gives you a jellyfish, which is a tension or an aggro, a character that basically draws aggro for you. And these things are not things that are explained to you. There are things that you have to explore. Now, I will say that is like an NES game. That is like a PlayStation 1 Square RPG game. Not everything is explained out to you. You do have to experiment with controls. So this is an aside. I'm going to go back to the days when I was a child. And my mother would come in and she would try and play Super Mario Brothers with us. Now, as kids, we had experience. We would play around with the buttons and figure out, what's jump, what's forward, and we would start to figure it out over time. Where my mother, as an adult, didn't have the time to really spend to figure that out. Holding B would make your character run, and then A would make them jump, and they would jump farther. Like, she, being an adult and having things to do and children to raise, she didn't have time to figure that out. So I can see the point of some people saying, hey, I don't have the time to do this. I need an easier way, or I've got to have a thing. And that's why I say this game isn't necessarily for everybody, but again, it can be for a lot of people. Now, moving on into leveling and, cheesing or farming it is what you will. a lot of people out there do say that farming isn't the Souls way. Now, it's a single player game, guys. And from my point of view, there's nothing wrong with farming. We did it in Square's Final Fantasy, whether it was 7, 8, 9, 12. I mean, there's been a lot of farming done by a lot of people in this world over the years to get past that next boss because they just couldn't quite get the hits in. Now, that's not to say that if you want a harder challenge, you can't rush headlong at a boss if you're really good and you're really skilled. And this is what I think a lot of people really misunderstand about these games is when people say the triggering phrase of get good, they're really not taking into account that there are multiple ways to get good. There are multiple ways to go about this game, not just in taking the time to, have that dodge roll at the very last second. Maybe you can go in there and you're powerful enough because you grinded enough minions to be able to overpower the boss. It's a valid and it's a legitimate way to go about it. If it wasn't a valid and legitimate way to take on tougher characters, then Miyazaki would not have put it in the game. It wouldn't be there. You wouldn't be able to go back to a site of grace and you wouldn't be able to fight characters over again or rest and have the characters gone over again. If this was not a valid way to go about the world, then what they would do is when you defeated a character, it would just be permanently gone. Thankfully, bosses do not respawn, but that is another discussion. Let's continue on with leveling. Now, when of course you're building your character, you really need to take the time to look at some skills. Again, it's time consuming. I'm not saying it's not time consuming. And again, if you don't have the time, the game may not be for you. But I don't think you should look at the game not being for you because it's tough. There are ways to get around the toughness. So when you're looking at leveling with a character, if you have a spellcaster or a specific kind of spellcaster, for me, I'm playing a I can't think of it at the moment. I just drew a complete blank. I'll have to put it in a note at the bottom of the screen. But when you're playing a certain type of spellcaster, you want to put a lot of skills into intellect. You want to put a lot of skills into mind. Vice versa, if you're playing a prisoner or if I believe it's the prisoner, you may want to put more skill points into faith because I believe with that class, they are a faith-based spellcaster. So there are some explanations if you hit the start button when you're in the menu that will allow you to go down and say it'll say explanation, and then you can scroll it down and you can get the game to kind of explain to you what the stat is for and what it affects. And then you can move, if you have enough runes, you can move the stat up and down to see a little bit of an effect. And what I would recommend, because I don't think at this time that there's a way to pull up multiple menus to see them at the same time, is that you'll have to do some experimenting. You'll have to level up a skill and then go see if that changed the stat that you were looking for in the way that it was meant to be changed or in the way that you wanted it to be changed. So let us go ahead and let us start talking about some more of these systems. And there's a lot of systems in there that are not explained to you. So your Ashes of War can be leveled up. Even though if you can find a smithing stone early on, that allows your weapons to be leveled up. And one of the things that isn't explained is that for a smithing stone, or even for runes for that example, there are different levels of these items, and how that is usually notated is in parentheses, where there'll be a 1, a 2, a 3, etc. next to the item description. So that is one way to level up your weaponry. And when you have these different levels on the items, so again, that there's multiple levels of the smithing stone. So at the anvil in the Church of Ella or Elia, you can only level up your weapon 3 times. So that is a total of, I think it is 12 level 1 smithing stones. Anything beyond that, you need to be at the round table. And then you're going to have to go through the progression of 2, 4, 6 again, but it's going to be with a level 2 smithing stone, and then a level 3, and so on, and so forth until you max out the weapon. So there are things for you to be able to level things up. There are items in the world which have different stats that you have to go and find. But when it comes to then going on and taking on bosses and mini bosses, I would recommend definitely spending some time in an area and exploring the area to be able to, again, level up, to be able to improve your skills enough to then go take on the boss. There is, now, if you're a spellcaster, I found that there was a wand down in the southern part of the starting area that the wand is definitely much better than the focus is much better than the starting focus that you had. So it is another way, of course, to power your character up. There are a lot of different ways to power yourself along. You know, even the systems that are in the game, they give you the opportunity to allocate your flasks. And if you have golden seeds, getting more flasks. So there is enough there for you to be able to get your character to a point where you can take on these mini bosses and these bosses and then get talismans and power up further and move on. It is just the grind to get there. This game, if you are expecting a 10-hour game or you want a 5-hour experience, this game isn't for you. If you want a game that is going to last you a while, that you can really explore and get into, then this game is for you. This game is for you if you don't mind learning combinations, if you don't mind learning movements of another player, if you're trying to get through the game at the lowest level possible. Because again, the lower your level, the tougher it's going to be. Because you can bypass all that if you get a character powerful enough. So again, just to recap, when we're talking about getting better, it's really not about get good, because I don't like that mentality of get good. It's not conducive to any conversation. It's one of those things that actually shuts down conversations. So at least on this channel, I'm not about get good. Let's actually have a conversation about Elden Ring. And in conclusion, or actually, give me a second. We'll talk about bosses just for one other second here. With the bosses, you are going to get to a place where, yeah, you're gonna die. You're gonna die and die and die and die and die. And maybe you're gonna then decide, okay, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna farm it up a little bit more. I'm gonna go kill some enemies and keep killing enemies until I feel I'm there. I've got enough power to take this guy on. I will tell you right now that I have put about, I think it's like 25 hours into Elden Ring between a PC version and a PS5 version. I was able to accomplish the second time around in the PC version, the one that you guys are going to be seeing footage of, in 3 hours, what it took me 30 hours to do on the PS5. So you do learn, you do get better, you do remember. And, even when you start playing again, there might be things that you find you didn't see the first time around. You didn't experience the first time around. This world's got a lot to offer. I think that this game should be experienced by anybody who has interest. Don't be afraid by the difficulty. Don't worry about anybody who's saying get good. Enjoy the game that you purchase and do take the time to get into it. I'm not going to say that you're not going to get frustrated. I get frustrated. The art department, the girlfriend, she can attest to me getting frustrated. And it's just one of those things. There are a lot of games over the years that a lot of people will tell you that they've thrown controllers down. Heck, Nintendo put wrist straps on the Nintendo Wii because some people have been known to throw Wii remotes through their plasma television back in the day. So don't worry about it. Enjoy your game. Enjoy the entertainment. If it's tough, just take the time. That's the best advice I can give you. And again, this is coming from somebody who's very new at it and also doesn't have a lot of time necessarily to play games. So I want to thank you all for watching. If this video was useful to you, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the content and want to see more content similar or even more Elden Ring content, leave me a comment down below. Let's talk about Elden Ring. I'd like to hear what you guys think about it. And of course, hit that subscribe button, ding that bell, and if you guys really want to even double team a boss, I'm not great at the game, but if I'm online, maybe it's something we can work out as a community. But I want to thank you all again for watching, and just take care of each other out there, and I'll see you in the next video.